Hello all, this is Dr. Dave Maslak talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3. And in this particular video, I actually want to talk about dealing with your grad school interviews and just sort of thinking about questions that you should ask during your grad school interview for a PhD or doing any particular sort of research route. So if you don't know, I'm actually a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and the whole Reciprocity project started out, so first of all, it's a sharing economy proofreading platform that I'm trying to build, but it's really a lot more than that. It's turned into something a lot bigger where I'm just trying to be as giving as I possibly can, because I truly do believe in reciprocity, sort of a general form of reciprocity where I just give things as much as I possibly can. The whole platform, I've invested it by myself, and my family is invested in it. Oddly, I don't know why my wife has let me invest in it, but anyways, so we've sort of built this thing out, and then now I've been putting out these YouTube videos, and it's all just to help out graduate students and people that are doing research, to help them as much as I possibly can. So, by the way, if you see anything with the Reciprocity platform that you think I should change, make sure you do let me know, and then I'll build that into the Reciprocity platform to help you out, right? So if there's things that you think that I really need to put in there, I definitely would put them in, and I'll just put them in the queue in terms of development. So please do let me know. I do appreciate it. So grad school interviews, what are some questions that you should ask in terms of grad school? So when I started out, I was a total noob. I finished my engineering degree when I was, at the University of Waterloo, finished my engineering degree there, and I was 23 years old. And I started doing research. Actually, I was doing undergraduate research before then when I was about 20, but, I didn't really know a lot. I started 23 when I started going in the research route. I did my master's, and it was a research master's. Then I did a PhD at 25, and I just didn't know what to ask and what to do. And, now that I'm 38 years old, gosh, and that's why I've got this, right? Yeah, losing a lot of hair. I had a lot more hair back then. But anyways, so I didn't know what sort of questions to ask in terms of the grad school interview, and I was just really shy and just kind of like, well, I just didn't know. So with this, here's some questions that I would ask if I was you as a professor, and when students ask me this, I'm really quite impressed with what they're doing and what goes on. So first of all, you should be always asking questions about them. That's very flattering if you ask questions about somebody else, because if you're just talking about yourself, you're not really getting any sort of insights about what's going on, right? So ask them questions. That's a really important thing. So first thing is, and this would be anywhere in any circumstance if you're dealing with any PhD. It doesn't matter if you're doing a PhD in business administration or just anybody, because they're really curious. So just ask them what they do research on, and that will you'll be surprised in how much they'll talk just from that, and then you'll get an idea of oh, is this interesting? Do you like this research, right? The second thing that's probably really important to think about is, are you going to get any sort of research support? If you're going into a PhD program or if you're going into grad school, you should probably get a little bit of research support. And I'm not talking about the stipend that you get, because most programs will give a stipend, but being able to present your papers someplace, right? Is the program going to support you going and presenting at a conference? And, believe it or not, that's actually becomes expensive after a while. So, any conference, doesn't matter if it's local or international, you're looking at $1,000 right there. If it's local, maybe it's $500. Because by the time you stay at a hotel, you pay for conference fees and all that kind of stuff, it adds up. It gets really expensive. So just imagine that. This US dollars, that's probably what the going rate is in terms of how much it's going to cost to do these. And if you have to that's part of your job as a graduate student, is to go and present your work. If you have to do those, that eats into your budget pretty quickly. Another thing that you should ask is, how do you actually what would you do if I decided to switch supervisors or switch schools? And how do you sort of deal with that? That's an important question to think about. And maybe not, switch schools. That's going to lead them to be like, what's going on? But, it's something to think about is like, what do you do if, the supervisor's not working out with the one that I'm working with? How do you actually deal with that? And normally you should, or people should be able to deal with that, no problem, at most institutions, but some institutions, it sort of raises flags. You're just looking for the response, right? Are they okay with that? Is this kind of, is this frowned upon? That's an important thing, because really you're choosing along the way. You don't know what the heck you want when you're going in as a, even if you have an MBA, and you have no idea what the research thing is, and you're not going to figure it out until you're about a year in. And that's why I'm trying to put out these videos, by the way. I'm trying to be as helpful so you can just jump right into it a little bit more. And maybe a third thing to ask, fourth thing to ask, sorry, I can't count. Fourth thing to ask is ask where their PhD students who have graduated, where have they gone? What are they doing? If they have gone to pretty good institutions that you would be proud of working at, so that's what your job is, right? If you're doing a PhD, you are going to work at some sort of research institution or work at a university. And if they're going to schools that you'd be proud about, then that's good, right? And then you also want to sort of see on the upper end, and vast majority of people are not going to be like this, but you want to ask who is sort of a famous PhD student, or do you have a couple of famous PhD students? And you'd be surprised that most programs will have that, because people just come from all walks of life, and they end up doing very well if they're amazing. And that's important to think about. Are there enough people out there? Is this program big enough to be sort of producing people like that? The other thing, you have to sort of think about all these other contingencies that you could ask about that are important to think about, right? So, one of them might be, what would happen if your advisor moves to a different institution? That does happen a lot, believe it or not, particularly if you're at, a lot of programs just have that built into their culture. And so you have to think about that. And is this, if your advisor moves, what's going to happen? Is there sort of things that are going to happen to allow me to graduate and continue on, right? And if they can't answer that, then you have to be a little bit leery. But most times what will happen, by the way, is that, one of the senior faculty will take you on. If you're sort of showing that you're doing progress, and they'll take you on, or you might go to the other institution. And often it just kind of depends on what's going on, but you should be well aware of that, right? The next thing is, and this is, I tell anybody that's interested in going to graduate school, one of the things that you should, and you probably don't even have to ask during your interview this, which might be a bit weird, but before you actually go on the interview, or look it up on the website, but just look what their average salary is of the people that are actually graduating from that particular program, and what is their pass rate. So you're looking for, is this actually going to have a financial return with the thing that you're pursuing, right? Because most research programs, the financial return is pretty low. So you want to go to a program that actually has the best return. So if you're going to a program that's going to net you, let's say you're going to make 40 grand a year, or 50 grand a year, $50,000 a year, and you've just invested 5 years of your life beyond a master's, gosh, that's really kind of, yeah, you could probably do better if that's what it is, right? And so you just have to be well aware of that and look at what their pass rates are. That's another important thing, because you don't want to get about 3 or 4 years in and realize, nobody passes this program. So you just want to be very, very cognizant of that going through, because it does vary substantially amongst programs, and that's something you should be well aware of. And maybe the last thing, and it's related to sort of the research output again, is asking where the PhD students publish and looking to see where they publish. And you should, if you're in your particular field, you should find out what your field that are, what you're considering is good articles are, or good journals. Really important to know what those journals are. So if you're going into finance, for example, a PhD in finance, you should be looking at the Journal of Finance. I know those guys say that, they either say finance or finance. It depends on who you are, right? So yeah, and if you're going into, And if you're going into my field, Administrative Science Quarterly or Organization Science or American Academy of Management Journal, like, those are really good journals that people would publish in or try to publish in. And then there's also like all the other fields, right? American Journal of Sociology and American Economic Review. Those are great journals that people would love to publish in. And if they're publishing in those particular journals, well, that's a good sign, right? If they're not, um, because it's so sort of sets you going forward, then you should maybe sort of consider that going forward, right? So it sets you, because you're getting trained in to be able to publish at the best possible journals as possible. And if you're not getting trained at that level, then it's hard to get into those journals. It's just really stinking hard, period. But you should be thinking about that. How can you be trained to get published in those top tier journals? And that's going to matter a lot going forward. That's it. Those are the questions that I was thinking about immediately. Then some might pop into my head later on. I might tell you about those. If people want to hear more, just leave comments and that kind of stuff. I'd be glad to put them. But again, thank you again for watching this video. Give me a thumbs up if you like it, as well as do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do appreciate it. So that's all I'm going to talk about. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care. Bye.